Joe, just a few more questions. Once again, some words and just whatever comes to the mind.
Yeah,
The current.
my mind is right in the past right now.
Okay, well, let's come to the future and let's talk about the current edition of Zawinul Syndicate.
Well, I have an old guy, an old not in age, but in association with my music life, the great Manolo Badrena, who played on Weather Report's Heavy Weather album and was in that band with Alex Acuna, Jaco, and Wayne and myself, of course. And I have a phenomenal bass player from Cameroon, which, as a matter of fact, is what Philadelphia is here in America. Cameroon is the place of the best bass players in Africa. You know, in Philly, you know how it is, man. The best bass players in America come from Philadelphia for some kind of reason. I don't know what they do. And this guy, Richard Boner, is a mathematics professor, a wonderful singer, and I think since Jaco, for what I'm doing, without a question, the best bass player. Then I have, since a few years, I met during my production of Salif Keita's record. You know that record, Amen. There was a drummer on it from the Ivory Coast. His name is Paco Seri, and he's in my band since 3 years. Phenomenal drummer, plays calimbas, he plays bass. He doesn't play bass in my band, but he knows how to play bass. As a matter of fact, that's the way he came to Paris to play bass in a band. What is his name? Eddie Lewis, and he played bass in that band. And I think he's one of a kind as a drummer, you know. And I have a guitar player from Brooklyn. His name is Gary Paulson, a young kid from Flatbush Avenue, can really play. In a way, a rhythmic master, and his soloing is very abstract, man. It's something a lot of people will have to listen to this guy. It's very, very different, and I really like that. It's very personal. And I think that's it, right? This is Manolo and Richard and Paco and Gary and myself. And my son Ivan is more or less the sixth musician. He's doing sound effects, he does our sound, he does my keyboards. He's a phenomenal young guy. He mixed my people. He's doing the mixes on the unissued Weather Report stuff. We're doing a club mix now on a couple of songs of the My People album. He's a great young mind.
Stories of the Danube.
Stories of the Danube, I was commissioned to write this several years ago from the Bruckner House in Linz. And I gave him a little example of what I'm doing, and that was called Voice of the Danube. And that's one of the movements, as a matter of fact, on the symphony. And then Carl Gerber, who is director, he said, Joe, you should write for the Klangwolke. Klangwolke is also called Ars Electronica. That's every year in Linz. It's a free concert. As a matter of fact, for the premiere of my work were 80,000 people. And that's a multimedia event with lasers and incredible filmmaking and big screens, etc. It was done at night. And they had, on ships, they had mountains going by which were lit up. They had gypsy boats, 7 gypsy boats with straw filled, pulled by catamarans with people with horse heads on top of it, like the gypsy caravan. And at the end of the gypsy movement, they set him on fire. You know, the whole story of the gypsies, and then it goes. I started geographically with 3 aspects. One was a geographic one, starting from southern Germany through Austria, Hungary, Czech Republic, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, ending in the Black Sea. The second one was historical. I went more or less from the beginning. The first movement is called The Beginning. There's no time yet. There was not even water yet in the Danube. And then it goes to the Kaiserreich, which means the time of Kaiser Franz Joseph. which is very much in my mind because I used to work on the fields, and my grandfather, who was born in 1864, was always talking about the Kaiserzeit, the time of the Emperor, Kaiser Franz Joseph, the good times, you know. And then I talked about the gypsies, which is a part of my life because my grandmama was a Hungarian gypsy. And then I'm speaking about the voice of the Danube. I was imagining, I improvised the whole thing. I was imagining to be a rock on the bottom of the Danube in history. I'm looking up very clear and see the history pass by. And then it's modern times, you know, the times of the worst times of Europe, perhaps in the world. And that movement is called the Unknown Soldier. And then there's a movement, and that's a very long movement which goes into the Turkish Empire. As you know, the Turks were ruling Eastern Europe for 900 years. And so I tell the story about the Sultan. And then there's a finale. So there are 7 movements, and it's about an hour and 10 minutes long. And it was performed by the Brno Czech National Philharmonie. It's a funny thing, like my grandfather from father's side came from 60 kilometers from there. So the whole thing is like you know, very, very close together in terms of historical and geographical from my upbringing and the way I used to live through all that stuff, you know.
Joe, we'd like to, in this feature, include 5 of your best recordings. If you had to look back on your career, what would you say are 5 recordings you want people to remember you by?
You know, you're tough, man. That is a tough one. Because I like a lot of things.
It's like saying which is your best child, obviously.
That's very difficult, you know. I tell you, I like a lot of, because number one, I put everything what I have in every tune I've ever done. And they're all improvised. So it's very difficult to choose between something which comes that natural to you. You know, I'm very grateful for the fact that I had a luck with a few tunes. You know, they sold very well. It's not just Birdland and Mercy Mercy. I had some other tunes sold very well. Country Preacher and Walk Tall and things like that. Black Market, you know. I mean, I had a lot of tunes sold well. If I can talk about any favorite, man, I like Bimoya, which is on my new album a lot, with Salif Keita singing, but I wrote the tune a long time ago. I like, oh man, I wrote a song, it's called Familial, to a poem of Jacques Prévert. Jacques Prévert is a French poet. And this is on an album, it's called Black Water. It's a Syndicate album I like very much. And Weather Report, I like almost everything, you know. It's really, I think Heavy Weather is a wonderful album. So is Night Passage. You know, I'm telling you, my friend, I can give you 5 of the other things which are not of mine.
Okay, what would they be?
That would be that Toronto Massey Hall concert with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. That long 26 chorus solo Duke Ellington did with Bob Gonsalves in Newport. Anything by Billie Holiday. Anything by Duke Ellington. I love Louis Armstrong. I like I Cover the Waterfront by Louis Armstrong with his 1934 band. Fats Waller, anything, a genius, man. So, Art Tatum, anything. You know, this music, man, is by far, I'm talking about the great jazz music of the masters. It's by far, for me anyhow, the greatest cultural statement of the century. What they have done and how well it was done also so that the world can see it and hear it. It's what makes this sanctuary such a great one.